Thank you for taking the time to attend our webinar. I think you'll find this to be a very good use of your time to understand what is now possible with natural language processing. I want to introduce our two speakers. First, we have Ryan Welsh, our founder and CEO, and then Mark Oney, our Chief Product Officer. Some housekeeping notes. Everyone will be muted in the audience, will be muted during the presentation. You can submit questions via the Q&A button at any time during the webinar. Chat is disabled. We will address the questions after the presentation. If we don't have time to get to all the questions during the live session, we will respond after the webinar. And this webinar is being recorded, and everyone will see the recording after the webinar. Feel free to share the recording with your colleagues. So with that, I'll turn it over to Ryan.
Perfect. Thanks, John. All right. So hi, everyone. I'm Ryan Welsh. I'm the founder and CEO of Kindy. A few things that we're going to cover today. We're going to talk about the information gap in life sciences, specifically what that is, what the issues are. We'll talk about closing the gap with natural language solutions. So natural language solutions are products that leverage natural language processing being a artificial intelligence technique that focuses on teaching machines to understand human language. And then we'll do a live demo so you can see how powerful natural language search solutions are. Oh, sorry about that. So let's take a look at the information gap in life sciences and healthcare. So there's all types of information that you ultimately are looking through in this landscape of information. There are drug FAQs, medical research, FDA, clinical trials that you can get from the public web, medical device instructions, policies and regulations. All of this data is unstructured text data. And a lot of times you do spend a lot of time searching through this information to ultimately find answers to your questions. In fact, NIH did a survey recently, and they demonstrated that 88.5% of healthcare professionals search for medical information either daily or several times per week. The academic literature for computer science shows that across industries, professionals spend about 20% of their time, or the equivalent of about 1 day a week, searching for answers. And so actually finding answers in this unstructured text-based data is quite challenging. And so locating accurate, timely drug and health information in text-based documents has been a consistent challenge for patients and healthcare professionals. They face all types of hurdles, including time-consuming manual searches, having to sort through large amounts of information. I think we all can be familiar with that when we get a bunch of blue links back, or dozens of documents back, and we have to manually read through all those documents to find the answer. These are inaccurate search results because the system doesn't really know what you're looking for. And a lot of times to actually find what you're looking for, you need to know what you're looking for, which is part of the reason of why I'm searching, is because I may not actually know what it is that I'm trying to find. And so these are just a few of the issues that folks have in searching this unstructured text data. And we call this the information gap. There's information that you're trying to get and you can't get to it. And there's really no way to cross this gap with the status quo. And so there's really two main interfaces that we interact with as working professionals. They are chat interfaces and search interfaces. And this is specifically for finding answers in unstructured text data. So chats can be powered by software bots. And these technologies are good for transactional use cases, like maybe setting up an appointment or canceling an appointment or something like that. But they are not very good for informational search use cases. So informational search use cases are when you are looking for guidance, background information, or information about a product or service. And so these chatbots are often too rigid for those types of informational searches. And so we like to joke that you can ask any question as long as it's one of the 5 questions that were pre-programmed into the chatbot. And so often that is not the case for informational searches where you're asking what is seemingly an unlimited amount of questions of the underlying text data. Moving over to the other search interface, specifically the keyword search interfaces. These are token or keyword search based. It's a bit of a shotgun approach where you just type in some keywords and ideally you get the right information back. As I'm sure everyone is familiar with these types of technologies, they're good for certain things. When you know what you're looking for, you're trying to navigate to a specific site. But again, for informational searches, it's really challenging to find what you're looking for, specifically because the content that you're searching over is non-curated. Curated content would be things like FAQs. And so when you're just typing in keywords of all this non-curated data, it's really difficult to get an answer back because the system isn't language aware. It really doesn't know what you're looking for. It doesn't understand the synonyms and other ways of asking for questions or using words to find the answers. And so it's really challenging to find your answer with a token-based system. Then there is curated content where these are FAQs. These are things that folks work on to try to answer the most common questions from users. Oftentimes, there's not good coverage of the types of questions that people are asking. And these FAQs are pretty static. And so you need to have a full-time team dedicated to understanding what users are asking for and ultimately finding the information or writing FAQs and writing the answers to the questions. And the last kind of interface for finding your answers is this chat, where instead of a software bot, you have a live person on the back end of this system. Often, these folks are overwhelmed. They have several concurrent cases going on at the same time. I often am saying, are you still there? And typing that in and trying to see if the person is still there when they're answering my question. And I've had some decent interactions with live chat, but the majority of times it's not very helpful. And part of the problem is really the upstream self-service. And so these live chat systems get overwhelmed with users because the upstream systems aren't helping users find answers to their questions. And so the problems are unstructured data. So all of the technologies that we're using today are for structured data, when all the answers that we're trying to find are in unstructured data. So all of these keyword search systems, everything that we use today are really designed for structured data. And so there's no really easy way to find answers in that data. Also, pharma and life sciences has domain-specific information, and so it has very specific nomenclature and terms, and actually helping people understand how to search for the right things is quite difficult. And so you may ask, aren't some of these solutions powered by AI? So can't they process unstructured data? Well, by and large, the answer is no. You need to do content curation. So how do you know what questions you ultimately want to ask and get answered? To train a machine learning system, you need to have a lot of available data for model training. You also need to label that data, which is quite a long process. So how long are you willing to wait and how much money are you willing to spend to ultimately have all this data annotated, to hire the machine learning or data science professionals to train a model that specifically understands life science specific vernacular. But then really the last bit is it explainable? And so an explainable system, oh, my computer's lagging here. An explainable system helps you justify the answer. And in regulated industries like pharma and life sciences, it's really important that you don't have a system that is spitting out answers and you don't really understand why it's not spitting out or why it's spitting out those answers. And so explainability is pretty crucial when you're building machine learning models for pharma and life sciences. And so how do we close the gap? And so with a natural language system or an AI first product, so being a product that is really designed from the ground up to use current natural language processing, what you get is the ability to deliver the one right answer at the user's time of need. And so this enables you to have content that is centered on what users want and what they are looking for. And so this fosters a customer-centric support culture, which provides, significantly more delightful and user-friendly experiences across all of your digital channels. And so really what you need is you need to focus on first contact resolution and time to insight, so a more end user friendly approach. This is really kind of like a push versus pull. So we focus on content centered on what your users want to know, not what you want them to know. So they're pulling the information versus you kind of pushing it to them, enabling them to ask a broad set of questions and find answers to those broad set of questions. And so serving up these curated answers to perform the research ultimately when they are not available for specific questions. This approach to using natural language processing ultimately to power a product really focuses on end user experience and their satisfaction, solving the upstream issues that I spoke about with the live chat. And so what we've built here at Kindi is a natural language search product, a natural language platform. There's enterprise grade, best in class, that allows us to find answers to users' questions in unstructured text-based documents faster than any other product on the market. And uniquely, and I believe we're going to show you here in a second, we have the ability to find answers in both curated and non-curated content. And so it's pretty unique to be able to have users ask questions, and if there is a FAQ that answers their question, provide that answer up. But then if there's not, to actually search the underlying information to find the answer and serve that up to the end user. And so with that, Mark, I'll actually hand it over to you to do a live demo.
All right, thanks, Ryan. Can you see my screen?
Yes.
Okay, great. So let me start the slides here. Great. So in this demo, we'll compare what customers often experience today versus what the experience could look like using Kindi's capabilities. I've been diagnosed with a bad case of the Mondays, and so I want to do some research before my next doctor visit. I want to know more about the medication that I've been prescribed, and I'm also taking some other medications, so I want to make sure that there's no interactions between the drugs. So let's get started by first describing what a typical customer experience looks like in self-service channels that Ryan described earlier. Earlier today, I visited the mondex.com website to find some answers to my questions. I first asked the chatbot, what are some common side effects of Mondex? And the chatbot responded with a fairly generic response. I can see that it's telling me I should consult my doctor or consult the call center, the Mondex call center for more information. So that's not very helpful. Next, I go up to search and I try to do a simple search. It seems to only search website content, and it didn't really return anything useful. It feels much more like a shotgun approach, returning a lot of unrelated content. And then lastly, I found an FAQ buried a couple levels deep on the website that somewhat answered my question, but all told, that was about 30 minutes that I'm not going to get back. So now let's switch over. I'm going to stop and share. Hold on just one second. So let's start out with that same query that we asked earlier. What are the common side effects of Mondex? When we conduct a search, we see a result set coming back. And the first thing you'll notice is we have a top result right up on top. What we've done here is matched the query, what are the common side effects with Mondex, with a similar query phrased differently within our FAQ curated content. What are the possible side effects of taking Mondex? And you can see here, this result talks about feedback from clinical studies on side effects, issues reported by consumers taking Mondex medication of different side effects, and then also advice to consult your doctor or pharmacist to find a more complete and comprehensive list of potential side effects. Next, you'll see a section people also ask. These are related questions to the query, so they may not answer it as directly as this top result, but you can see here that I have additional questions. I can click through a question to review the answer. If I'd like to see a little bit more depth of information, I can click on see more questions and pull up more information. And then finally, at this third section, also see, we're doing a search across a repository of documents. So in this case, you can see 3 documents that we searched across: Doctor Discussion Guide, FDA approved indications, and Mondex side effects. And this is an organic search against that non-curated content to also bring back relevant information to the query that we asked, what are common side effects of Mondex? Another thing you'll note is that Kindy can provide a level of explainability that's pretty unique to AI solutions. In this case, if we click on this first result, it'll take us to the exact page within a document that contains that information we're looking for. Again, here's that result. What are possible side effects of Mondex? Provides a definition, a description. I can read a little bit before, a little bit after, so that I can make a judgment contextually as to whether this is really the information I'm looking for. Next, let's try one more query. Instead, let's ask, can I take both Imitrex and neuroprodone together safely? One thing you'll note is neuroprodone happens to be the pharmaceutical name of our brand name drug Mondex. With Kindy, we provide no-code, low-code tools that make it very easy for non-technical content resources to be able to extend the language model with industry-specific or company or product or process-specific terminology. And so in this case, we recognize that the pharmaceutical name and the brand name are synonymous. So by executing this search, we see something a little bit different on the result page. In this case, we didn't have a strong match within our FAQ content. So instead, we've prioritized information that we found searching across a repository of text-heavy content. And in this case, the answer to the question can be found in the safety precautions statin contraindications document that talks about the interaction with our Mondex medication and certain other medications. In this case, medications for the treatment of migraines. You'll also notice that there are certain words highlighted within the result set. What we're showing here are connections between the query and the content itself. And this really demonstrates Kindy's natural language understanding, understanding different terminology, sentence structure, grammatical structure. So in this case, you can see that words like interact and side effects are correlated to safely. And then you can see drug names like Imitrex. You can find both the brand name and the pharmaceutical name. You also see the names of other drugs in this last result that are also used for the treatment of migraines. So in this case, We haven't found a good match, a strong match in the FAQs. We prioritize bringing back information from a search across non-curated content. But also at the bottom, we still have this people also asked that shows a few queries within our FAQ content that may not directly address the query, but they provide somewhat related information. Now let me shift to showing you what is happening on the content curation side of things. So in this case, the first query we asked, what are common side effects of Mondex? You can see it showing up here in the upper half of our search analytics dashboard. If you recall, this query had a good match, and it matched with a query in our FAQ content, what side effects might I expect taking Mondex? And what you see here are a number of questions that consumers asked that ended up matching with this FAQ content. And this allows us to do query clustering to say these are common ways to ask for the same information. And these questions aren't yet part of our FAQ content. So I'll show you in a second how we go about editing that. Below the line, you see additional queries that have been asked that didn't match FAQ existing content, but instead resulted in a non-curated search. So this top one, can I take both Imitrex and neuroprodone together safely, was an example of that. So let me hop back to, can you see my presentation now?
Yes.
Okay, great. So in this case, here's the dashboard. By clicking on this result, what we're able to do is bring up one of those no-code, low-code tools, a form that allows us to either edit an existing FAQ content or to create new FAQ content by simply adding a lead question, alternate questions, an answer, and a state for this FAQ pair or remedy. So in this case, I can go back to the, can I take Imitrex and neuroprodone safely together? I can add one or more alternate ways of phrasing that question. So in this case, does neuroprodone interact with Imitrex? And then I can provide a standard response that will be returned the next time someone asks a question that is similar to either of these questions above. So what that is doing in summary is we've shown that we're able to answer user questions quickly and easily at their time of need. We're able to really keep aligned with what is top of mind for your customers. So as their needs vary over time, you want to be able to keep tabs with that and make sure that you're aligning your web content with those evolving needs of your customers. So you have new products coming out, or customers are asking different questions than they've asked previously. You want to make sure that your curated content stays aligned with those evolving needs, but you've got that backdrop of the non-curated search in order to provide that closed feedback loop of being able to stay abreast of what your audience needs. And ultimately that positions you to be able to listen and serve and align yourself with those needs rather than what many companies do today, which is more of a push and pray approach. So with that, I'll stop sharing and hand it back to you, Ryan.
Perfect. So next steps, happy to, would love for anyone to schedule a demo with us, visit the website, watch Kindy in action. We got a bunch of content that you can download as well. So a lot of next steps here. Would love to chat with anyone who's on the call and is interested in speaking with us. I believe we're going to open it up for some questions now.
Yeah, so some of the folks have asked some questions, so I'm just kind of put them together here. Ryan, for you, Some folks have asked, can Kindy search content across both internal and publicly available content?
Yes. So the type of content is any type of unstructured text content. It could be internal, external content. We have a lot of folks that have internal content that internal employees want to search over. They have external content that they want their customers or website visitors to search. And so it really just comes down to, you know, who's the end user. But yes, we can search over both internal and external content.
All right. And then there's a couple questions along these lines. Mark, I'll ask this of you. Within the pharma or life science space, there's a lot of domain specific terminology, medical terms, acronyms, ailments, conditions, regulatory organizations, drug names, and some of these change over time, especially during a drug trial timeline. How would Kindy help us deal with this challenge?
Kindy makes it really easy for non-technical staff to extend our base language model, as I mentioned earlier, with industry or company-specific terminology. So the relationship between brand name and pharmaceutical name was an example of that. And those types of terms can be added within minutes using some of the no-code, low-code tools that we have available. It really obviates the need to have complex ontologies that are notoriously very difficult to build and maintain. So if you introduce a new product name is assigned to a drug within the drug trial, it's no big deal. Kindy can deal with those types of references within minutes.
Thank you, Mark. Some questions around, so can Kindy, Ryan, I'll ask this of you, can Kindy replace medical chatbots, drug FAQs, integrated voice response systems?
Yeah, we get this one a lot. And what we find is that we're a great complement to those systems. And so, you know, one thing in the AI space is, in the artificial intelligence space, is there's a lot of very narrow solutions for certain things. And when you bring those together, you get a robust system that allows you to really serve your customers. So I actually see the Kindy search system as a complement to chatbots, drug FAQs, and IVRs.
Thank you. Mark, I'll ask this of you. What is required or how long does it take to deploy Kindy's natural language search into production?
It's very straightforward. The natural language embedded search can be deployed in a matter of weeks, depending on the existing infrastructure you have in place and the style of the deployment. Embedding that search product that I just demonstrated into a website or an intranet is pretty straightforward. It takes 3 lines of code to embed that widget, and then creating a content pipeline from wherever the content exists. We have a variety of different ways on how we can bring content into a Kindy volume, building that initial volume, extending the language model as we talked about earlier. And then we even have inline benchmarking tools that allow you to be able to benchmark results to ensure that you're getting good search efficacy at the time of deployment, but also on an ongoing basis as your content changes or the needs of your audience change.
Thank you. Next, Mark, for you again, what types of skills or roles do customers need to deploy and maintain the Kindy search solution?
There is certainly technical resources can use all the tools that we have available, but we've consciously designed all of the tools to allow non-technical people, those that really understand the use case terminology or vernacular. Maybe it's the content development team, to be able to use these tools to do everything that we described earlier, extending the language model, testing out queries, analyzing where you might not be getting good search results. And so you want to go in and do some tuning or optimization, or maybe that's an indication of having a content gap that you want to look to fill. All of those types of tasks can be done through a series of forms and simple tools.
Great. And then the last question for Mark, does Kindi support voice interaction?
We're primarily focused on extracting critical information of interest from text-heavy documents. And in that model, generally queries are typed in through a browser interface, a search field. But Kindi's embedded search product is designed to be mobile ready. So a user can utilize built-in microphone on iPhone or Android. So just as you might do for texting, is click on the mic, speak a text, and then send it off. You can use that same approach with Kindi search. Simply use a natural language query as though you were talking to a colleague using the microphone. Click on that, execute the search, and then you're off and running and getting relevant responses in return.
All right. Thank you, Mark. All right. Well, that will wrap up our webinar. Thank you, everyone, for attending and for the thoughtful questions. I hope you found the time to be well spent. Everyone is going to receive a link to the webinar shortly, and please feel free to share it with your colleagues. If anyone wants more information, please feel free to reach out to info@kindi.com, and we'd love to schedule a demo and show you how we can interact with your data in your environment and dramatically improve your customer and internal experience when searching for all this data that's there. It's just super hard to find. So thank you again, everyone. Take care.